mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts! How do we let go martial arts? We let them mix!
Woo! For the final UFC event of the year, Casey Leiden is pumped. That might be the most energy I have ever heard you put into one of these, Casey, and frankly, why not? UFC Tampa is one sleep away. All the fighters have successfully made weight. Apparently, there's some controversy. We were just talking about it for one Joel Alvarez, but I don't know if it's real controversy, and we can get into all that as we break them down, because that's what we're here to do, folks. It's the UFC Tampa preview show for the final, I guess actually maybe not the final time this year that we're coming to you with one of these, because we do have a major boxing event next weekend. I'm sure we'll do something similar, but the final MMA event of the year for our purposes. And very exciting, guys, because I'm Jed Meshew. You know me if you've watched our content before. If you haven't, love to have you. Hope we get to keep you around. But joining me, a man who usually joins me for these programs, but something's a little different. There's a little something in the air about him. I'm speaking, of course, about the voice of the MMA Fighting YouTube and podcast network, and a man who is, do I hear boots on the ground? Is that what I'm hearing, Mr. Mike Heck?
Yeah, you're hearing him. Florida Mike is here. Big smile on my face. Maybe a little bit of a tan. The head is extra shiny with Florida Mike being here. But yeah, UFC Tampa, boots on the proverbial ground at the Fighter Hotel right now. And then when I get out of here, grab a little lunch and I'll head over to the arena for the ceremonial weigh-in. So it's going to be a day, my friends. Going to be a day.
I mean, people might not know, because look at you. You got layers on. Apparently, Christmas has come early to Florida. It's chilly as hell up here in Georgia, so I'm sure the same is going there. But Mike, let's hop right into this event. And basically, when was the last time you wore boots on the ground? Because it's a great feeling. I wish I was there with you.
Jake Paul versus Andre August, maybe.
What a battle that was. What it was a year ago, yeah. We all remember that one. Well, very excited to get your perspective. Let's just address it out of the gate, because I did not know this was a thing until just now when you were telling me about it. And so, weigh-ins. What's the Joel Alvarez controversy? Because I don't understand it.
I don't really either. I didn't think we were going to actually talk about this, but
oh no, let's do it.
Yeah, so I just tweeted the video of Joel Alvarez making weight at 156. He was one of 3 fighters that were left. And then somebody who's got a pretty significant following in the Twitter space quote tweeted it and said, and this is the translation from Spanish to English from Google, does any expert know if lifting the soles of your feet helps trick the scale? And I'm looking at it, and I don't really see a ton of controversy here, but apparently some people think there might be. I don't know. You guys can go and judge for yourselves.
Look, we love a little weigh-in controversy. It's the best.
Yeah, his feet, the toes are. It does look like the fronts of his feet, as I watch it, have left the scale, and nobody is looking down at his feet. So
I mean, who needs anything beyond that? Plus, he's my boy. So he pulled up. He definitely is wonky, but no. But weigh-in controversy is always the best, because ultimately, who really gives a shit in general? But the people who do care, they get very up in their feels about it, and it's deeply funny to me. But let's turn our attention to the card as a whole, Mike. If this is your first time here, you guys kind of know the deal. We'll talk through some topics at the end. We'll do a Q&A. Mike's going to actually bail on the Q&A because he has other things to attend to, but you'll still have me and Casey. But Mike, right off the rip, last card of the year, I think this is 43rd event. Maybe it's 42nd. I don't remember, and I didn't write down the number. How do we grade the final UFC card of the year on some sort of a scale? You don't have the gymnastics. You don't have the patented fights above replacement scale. How are we feeling about the event in total?
B minus. I think it's pretty good. I think any card that has a main event with stakes is always like in the C plus range. Like it should be like a C or a C plus. We have multiple fights on this card with stakes. It's this one, and you have the flyweight fight between Manel Kopp and Bruno Silva. There are potential title shots on the line. It's not like the first choice, probably, but there are potential title shots on the line for the winners of both of those fights. Those are both very intriguing matchups. Cub Swanson versus Billy Quarantillo absolutely rules. That fight is going to be incredibly fun. I'm curious about Dustin Jacoby versus Vitor Petrino. Petrino coming off of the submission loss to Anthony Smith, and now he's fighting Anthony Smith's teammate, Dustin Jacoby. So it's kind of like Vitor Petrino versus Factory X. Adrian Yanez is back, and Daniel Marcos has looked real good. So that's a really interesting fight. We kind of know what Navajo Sterling is doing on this card. He's here to kind of run over a guy. And then you have some veteran names like Michael Johnson and Jakar Close and Joel Alvarez is a great fight. Like there's interesting stuff everywhere. In almost every fight, there is some piece of it where you're like, okay, I kind of want to see what fighter X or fighter fighter Y are going to do. So yeah, I think this is a solid B minus, and yeah, I think this is pretty decent, especially coming after UFC 310 and the timing of this card being the week after and knowing which weight classes were really featured. I think it works out pretty well here.
I really do. I didn't even consider that part of it. I like the card as a whole. I've given it 5 fights above replacement. It is, I think it's a good way to end the year. We're not ending the year with a bang, but you kind of want to coast your way to the finish line anyway. You don't want to be sprinting through the tape at the end. So very solid, a good enough event to send us on our way, as we'll have about a month between fights. Actually, a little over. No, it's a month because then the pay-per-view's 5 weeks. So have some time to enjoy with the family, the holidays, the new year. Pretty solid way to go. And I don't know. It's kind of weird. The main event here is certainly as always, the hallmark, the centerpiece of this. This is a sort of strange one, Mike. It was not originally set to be the main event. Originally, Ian Machado Gary was supposed to take on Joaquin Buckley in the main event. After Bilal Muhammad pulls out of UFC 310 with the injury, Gary swaps, moves a week prior, and in steps our old friend, Mike, Colby Covington, back from the dead once again. Man hasn't fought in a year. Mike, you like to say that you got to let people miss you, and Colby is very good at letting people miss him, and then sort of just swooping in out of the rafters to quote unquote save the event. And, frankly, Mike, maybe put himself right back in title contention. We talked about this a little bit yesterday on BTL, but I didn't really get your answer here. You got mine. What does a win do for either Covington or Buckley? Buckley said this week he thinks a spectacular performance can slingshot him in front of Shavkat. I don't think anybody agrees with that. But does a win put him, or frankly, does a win put Colby next in line behind Shavkat for a welterweight title shot?
Maybe I'd say like best case scenario, Shavkat is, let's just say that what Daniel Cormier's told people he was told is actually true, and that Shavkat fought Ian Machado Gary with a torn MCL. That's not good, and he's going to be out for a minute. So worst case scenario or best case scenario for either guy is that the UFC wants Bilal Muhammad to fight in May or June, and Shavkat isn't ready, and you're going to go probably to the winner of this fight. Like there's a decent chance that happens. Who knows? Maybe they'll reward Ian Machado Gary for giving Shavkat some hell in that fight. But especially if Joaquin Buckley goes out there and finishes Colby Covington. At worst, and I don't know if it like puts them in a contender fight. I think if Joaquin Buckley wins, he should fight Ian Machado Gary. They should just go right back to that. If Buckley wants to just get right back in there and fight, if he doesn't want to wait for a title fight. Colby's a little more interesting because I don't know if he takes the Gary fight. Maybe he does. I'm not really sure, but the stakes here, worst case scenario for either guy, we've talked about this a lot on both the 310 post-fight show and on BTL yesterday. The winner of this, and even in a weird world where this man has 2 wins over Colby Covington already, the winner of this fight is the head of Kamaru Usman in any championship conversation right now. And it's weird to say that, like I said, because Kamaru Usman has 2 wins over Colby Covington. One guy has fought One guy hasn't. And this is a what have you done for me lately sport. And while we praise Kamaru Usman for losing to Khamzat Chimaev, a fight he took on short notice, he hasn't fought since. And Colby Covington will have had 2 fights since then. So he is the more active guy. And sure, he did lose to Leon Edwards, but Colby is saying that, he dealt with some elevation stuff, training for the fight. He wasn't his best
incredible.
self. Yeah, if
incredible
he goes out there,
bit.
maybe it's true. I don't know. We'll find out on Saturday. But if he just goes in there and just puts the boots to Joaquin Buckley, like, he's in a really good spot right now. So, yeah, I'd say at worst, they're both above Kamaru Usman. And at best, Shavkat's going to be out for a minute. UFC needs somebody to fight Bilal Muhammad. And it's not the first. This would not be the first time that Colby Covington has just gotten one win coming off of a loss and gotten a title fight, because it's happened a couple of times.
I don't particularly care for Colby Covington as a person, and his stick is, well, I think honestly, I think I gave his stick a lot more credit than others did early as a smart business move. It's wearing a bit thin. I got to respect that he really has the lawyer mindset of, I'm going to argue every point at all points. Like, no, I actually didn't lose that fight. I should have won that fight. But if I did lose that fight, it's because I had altitude sickness. And by like, it is just, there's nothing. He gives no ground. He's going to battle you on everything about how good he actually is.
And the broken foot.
And a broken foot. And I broke a foot. I broke my foot immediately. I didn't lose anyway, but if I did, it's because of these things, and not just that I fought Kamaru Usman twice and failed to get my. And the first time I actually knocked him out, but the ref stopped it and called it a low blow. But actually, it's the best gimmick. I got a lot of respect for that. My question for you then, Mike, is this. We're just going to go kind of right into what is your question about this fight? Because I'll tip my hand. I'm favoring Joaquin Buckley to get it done, but there are certainly things that could happen here. And so I have one kind of big question I'd like to be answered by this fight. What is the one for you?
There's 1,000 questions. I'm baffled by this fight, Jed. I'm baffled by all of it.
It's very weird.
I truly don't know what this is going to look like. I could sit out here and pretend like I know, but I absolutely have no idea what this is all going to look like. I don't know if Joaquin Buckley is just going to run Colby Covington over tomorrow because he's younger and on a great trajectory. And Colby is like, just happens in life. You get it a year older, a fight older, and father time just gets you at some point. Is this the time right now coming off that Leon Edwards performance? Or was Colby really hurt and really had elevation issues? Like, I don't know. I truly don't know. So this is just so baffling. I really do not know what this fight is or is going to look like, but it means a lot for this division, and the timing of it couldn't be any better. I just did not expect to live in a world, especially after Joaquin Buckley called out Conor McGregor, that he would put himself in this position to headline a fight night out of the Apex card against Colby Covington. Did not see this coming from 10 miles away. And now we're getting it. And I see a lot of people with a terrific amount of confidence that Joaquin Buckley is just going to go in here and just steamroll Colby Covington. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I don't know if that's the case, because I think if Colby has a really good night, there is a chance, like there's a real good chance he wins this fight. As a matter of fact, I do have some wagers. I have a straight bet on Colby Covington. I'm not overly confident about it, but because of all the doubts that I have and all the questions I have about what this baffling fight actually is, getting Colby Covington at plus 240 against really anybody, I'm going to take a little bit of a stabberoo at that, because if this fight gets out of this, maybe, I don't know if it gets out of there. If we get to the halfway point of this fight, this is Colby's fight. Colby's going to take over. It's just a matter of like, how behind is he in this fight? So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, can Buckley, I guess the one question I have is, if this gets to round 4, is Buckley going to be able to keep up? Because Covington's not going to slow down, and even compromised against Leon Edwards. And I know Leon probably just took the round off and just cruised to a win. Like Colby went in there and won that 5th round against Leon Edwards, essentially on 1 foot. So yeah, Colby
with altitude sickness.
With altitude sickness, which makes that even more impressive. That's like winning
impressive.
4 rounds. Yep, he should be the welterweight champion. No, but in all seriousness, like the longer this fight goes, I believe the more it favors Colby Covington. But how much of a head start can Joaquin Buckley get? Can he hurt Colby? Could he get a 10-8 round early and force Colby to really run uphill with this one? I don't know, but I do have a bet on Colby Covington at plus 235 is where I got him. I also have a bet on the over 4.5 at minus 120 because I think this fight is going to go long, and if it does, I think it puts Colby in a much better position to win.
Yeah, my big question for this one is just very simply, how much does Colby have left? He is 36. He's turning 37 in February, so he's very close to 37. This will be his 13th year of MMA. That is roughly when you start to see people decline, like pretty fundamentally in the sport. Fair amount of miles. I know he has taken a lot of time the past few years off, which maybe helps prolong him, but I thought against Jorge Masvidal, he looked like he had started to slow down because I don't think Masvidal is a very good fighter at this point in his career. And Colby, won cleanly, but still had moments of struggle in there. To your point, he is absolutely going to be there for 25 unless Buckley gets him out of there. I just don't know how much he's got left in the tank. And that is, if he has still got tread on the tires, this is a very competitive fight. If he is, on the faded side of washed, this could be a very, very good night for Joaquin Buckley. And so
yeah, it's no secret what Colby's going to go in there and try and do. He's going to go in there and he's going to try to annoy Joaquin Buckley with punches, and he's going to force Joaquin Buckley to hold his weight for as long as possible, whether he gets takedowns or not. Colby is a super athletic guy. He is a lot stronger than he looks. And if he puts you up against that fence, it ain't easy to get him off of you. He will sit there and grab that leg and hold you against the fence for 5 minutes at a time, multiple times. And Joaquin Buckley, as good as he is a large welterweight. He is a very muscular fella. And that, no matter how in shape you are, if you are built like that, the more you have to work like that, the more it's going to drain energy from those muscles. And if Colby could sit there and just really get off to a good start in that respect and really make Joaquin work for everything he's got, it could be a tough night for him. So I understand why there's confidence in Joaquin Buckley. There's no doubt about it. He's the young whippersnapper in this conversation, but I don't know. I think Colby's durability could be really helpful here. As you like to say, Jed, a guy who can't really be hurt is a problem. And sure, guys have stung him a little bit. And yes, he was stopped by Kamaru Usman, but it's not like he got deaded in that fight. I know Masvidal hurt him a little bit, but he seemed to
early
recover.
Stoppage too, Mike. Don't forget. There's early stoppage.
Don't forget the early stoppage. But yeah, if Buckley was like a minus 150 favorite, I ain't touching this one. But and Colby was like a plus 110 or whatever. I'm not taking the shot there. But plus 230, plus 235. I saw some at some point like plus 245. Like, I think there's just a ton of value on Colby at that number, no matter how you feel about him. If he has he doesn't even have, I don't even think he needs to have like a perfect night at the office. He just needs to have like a pretty good night at the office to have a chance to cash that bet.
It will be fascinating to see. So Mike, let's put you to the test. Nose to the fire, feet to the fire, I think is actually the term I was looking for there. Who are you picking tomorrow in the main event?
So when we do our stat picks, I'm probably going to pick Buckley to kind of hang on and win a decision. But
I love it. Play both sides. Cover your bases.
Yeah. It's probably how I'm going to handle it, just so I feel better if like either guy wins. Either I just get a point in our stat picks or I cash a pretty significant dog ticket. But again, I don't know what this is going to look like. I really have no idea. I'm dumbfounded by not just how this all came together, but just the matchup and both guys fighting each other from a stylistic perspective. Like, we never know what Joaquin Buckley is going to show up. This is a guy who was losing to Wonder Boy. He was losing to Wonder Boy Thompson. I thought he lost the first 2 rounds of that fight, and I thought he was losing the 3rd round, before he deaded Wonder Boy. And I don't know, man. Like, people were like so blown away by that performance, and it was impressive. And he got Wonder Boy out of there, who was a very durable guy. And the only time he ever got knocked out in a fight was the crazy Anthony Pettis Superman knockout. And then the mic work was great by Buckley, but like Wonder Boy was winning that fight, in my opinion. So like this whole thing that like Buckley is super tremendous and Colby's awful, I don't know. I don't know what this fight's going to look like. I'm baffled by it all, but I think Buckley, I think there is a chance that Buckley is getting like too much credit and Colby's not getting enough credit, which is why this baffles me even more the more I talk about this fight. So the pick will probably be Buckley hanging on to win, but it would not shock me at all if Colby does Colby things tomorrow.
Yeah, I am just going to pick Buckley because he is not old and washed, and it won't shock me. Like if Colby comes in and puts on a vintage Colby, I'll be like, okay, good for you. Part of me will die inside because that means we get more of Colby. He has been in rare, awful form this week, but I think Buckley is not like a great defensive wrestler, but he's a solid enough one, very physical. Colby's not like a great control artist. He does the take you down, you get back up, I take you back down.
Thing.
Yeah, it just does that. So and on the feet, like Buckley is pretty clearly advantaged in just about every category there. So taking Buckley, ride the hot hand. I think this is great work from Colby to step in, get this fight, put himself back in position. This is probably one of the more winnable matchups for him. So if he does do it, I mean, guy keeps being a great prize fighter, but I am backing Joaquin Buckley.
Jed,
I'm even going to go with KO.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. Oh, you're picking. Hold on, Buckley by KO. That's your pick.
Mm-hmm.
If this happens, Buckley's 4-0 this year. He's not the fighter of the year. Like he's not beating Pereira. He's not beating Taporia, who will be my fighter of the year. If you have to rank like the top 5, is Buckley getting one of your top 5s? Is he the number 5 fighter of the year for you? If he goes 4-0, finishes Wonder Boy, and then ends the year finishing Colby? No?
Probably. So I haven't started to do that. I have started looking at, spoiler alert, not next week, the week after, my all violence team will come out for where you pick the 3 tiers. Buckley is probably going to make it win, lose, or draw anyway as a representative, but he is not going to be the first team welterweight representative because Carlos Prates already has that locked up. He also has 4 wins. They were all finishes. They were all bonus winning finishes. And his last one, was over a ranked dude. I just don't put that much stock in beating Colby or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at this stage of their careers, even though they are ranked. I mean, it's the same thing, but he's getting bonuses in all of his fights or finishes. Whereas Buckley, to your point, was losing to Wonder Boy until he didn't. So he won't probably pass Prates because also some of Fighter of the Year is narrative too. And
that's true.
Buckley just hasn't had the same narrative Prates has. And I'm going to absolutely dock him points for being an imbecile and calling out Conor earlier in the year and beefing with Cub Swanson. So he may get into the top 5. Probably not, because I don't think Prates is going to get into the top 5 Fighter of the Year either. That I have to look at how I will view all of that. But Buckley will absolutely be an all violence member. I think it will likely be second team. But if he does another ninja kick on Colby, shit, man, we may reconsider. Maybe he takes the all violence first team spot if he does something insanely cool like that.
Yeah. All right. See the stakes. We just raised the stakes even more for this fight. So there you go.
Look, being an all violence team member is as prodigious an award as you can get in this fine sport of ours. A man who would have been an all violence team member had I been doing them previously before the last couple of years would undoubtedly be a man in our co-main event, a legend of the sport. I'm speaking, of course, of Cub Swanson, who takes on Billy Quarantillo in a fight that I don't know what's at stake, but I do know that it's going to be awesome. And so because I don't know what's at stake, Mike, that's my question for you. What is at stake in the co-main event?
Nothing. I mean, there's obviously stakes because, paychecks and money and all that stuff. But if we're taking all that outside of it, this is just a fun fight. This is just two dudes fighting each other. This is not to the same level, but close. This is what Nate Landwehr versus Doo-Ho Choi was last week. It's just two fun guys getting out there and getting after it. And I don't think this fight is going to be as lopsided from start to finish as that one was, but the same sort of feeling coming in is how I feel about this one. Billy Q is fighting in his backyard, which is a super huge deal to him. Plus, he's fighting Cub Swanson. And Billy Q's media day absolutely ruled because I asked him what his reaction was to this. And he was just like, yeah, this is great. Just kind of downplaying it. And then he said that his wife was on the phone telling people about the fight. He was like, this is the greatest day of his life, is basically how he reacted to all of this. So, yeah, I thought that was super cool. Cub Swanson, I thought his media day was probably the best because you always learn so much from the guy. And seeing him sort of dabble into all these different parts of the sport, like management and coaching and training, and then being a fighter on top of that, it's just so fascinating to listen to a guy like that. And what's going to happen here is they're probably going to start off and just be a little technical. And then the Billy Q fans are going to start screaming and hollering, and Billy Q is going to just do Billy Q things, which will then make Cub Swanson do Cub Swanson things. And then these two are just going to be an absolute tornado of destruction coming together to create a double tornado of destruction. And I do have a bet on this fight. I'm not choosing a side. I have the under 2.5 at plus 105 because I think once that crowd starts making noise, neither of these guys are going to be able to ignore it. And then business, as Jim Ross has always said, is going to pick up, and it's going to be so fun to watch.
Yeah, man, this fight is going to be incredible. Shout out to Cub Swanson, who is the only person who fought the last time the UFC came to Amalie Arena in, actually, what year was that? 2019. So 5 years ago, they took the trip down to Tampa. Cub Swanson picks up a UD over Crone Gracie, runs it back. Of course, we were supposed to get the extremely rare Mike rematch between Amanda Hebos and Mackenzie Dern, which happened at the first Tampa, and then they were going to run it back, and sadly that fell through. So instead, Cub is our only representative of the last time we attended Tampa. And to your point, Billy Q seems pumped about this fight, Mike. The just getting to fight in his hometown in the UFC, obviously very big for him. And I will lead us into the predictions here because I have a bet on Billy Quarantillo. My bet is subsidized by the wonderful folks at ChatGPT, but I in general agree with it. I think this fight is going to be maybe a slow start, but then gets hammer and tongs as the crowd starts getting live. Cub Swanson is just never in a boring fight, and Billy Q wants to put on a show. I think he's younger and has enough juice. I think he's probably not at his best anymore, but he's got enough juice to kind of eke himself past Cub Swanson in an incredibly fun fight. But Mike, what is your prediction for the co-main?
I don't know. I didn't think I would be asked this question. I'll go, I'll go Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson by TKO in a very sort of Drakkar Klose, Beneil Dariush type of ending. That's all I'll go with.
Oh, what a freaking fight that was. Man, I don't know if we're going to talk about Drakkar Klose, but man, lightweight rocks is the long and short version of the Drakkar Klose story. Before we kind of do the people stuff and let you move on with your day, Mike, you mentioned it and I've mentioned it. A lot of really good fights on this card. A lot of fights that I am interested in. Maybe not big name value, or maybe there's name value on one side of it. So pick three, and we're going to do an alternating back and forth of you pick a fight, we say something about it. I pick a fight, we say something about it. And we'll do a little round robin-y draft of your three fights that we haven't talked about that you want to at least give some shine to.
Oh, I get the first pick. All right.
I'll give you the first pick.
Wow. I mean, this is the easiest pick of the card. You could
it's very simple.
Yeah. You could actually make an argument that there's more on the line in this fight than there is in the main event between Manel Kape and Bruno Silva. Cannot wait for this one. Captain Eric has been hyping this thing up. They all made t-shirts with half of a face is Bruno Silva, the other half of the face is Manel Kopp, and it says like title eliminator. They're trying to make this a real thing, trying to promote it as such. Manel looks ready to go. Bruno Silva's won 4 in a row, 4 bonuses in a row. He's another Carlos Praches type. It's just a matter of activity for him. First time fighting multiple times in a year since 2021 for Bruno Silva. There's just so much to like about this fight, Jed. I cannot wait. And there could be a title shot on the line. And if Manel Kopp loses this fight, Jed, I'm super curious to see what comes next for him, because it has been a very strange UFC run for him since coming over from Horizon.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously the first draft pick, very, very clearly. Probably should be the co-main event, though I'm never going to be upset about Cub Swanson, the legend, taking on Hometown Boy in the co-main. I think that's fine, but this is definitely a fight with more stakes. I don't think Cop gets a title fight with the win, but you never know. He is pulling the old Colby. I didn't lose to Muhammad Makayev. The refs jobbed me out of it. I'm still on a big win streak right now, and maybe that gets over enough. We are trying to find a contender for Pantoja. If Cop gets a win, which he is favored by the bookies at least to do, maybe we've talked about that matchup for a while. Portugal versus Brazil. Kind of the best guy to sell a fight is Manel Kopp against Pantoja. So maybe they just say, let's pull the trigger on it because it would be fun. And frankly, I wouldn't hate it. I would be A-okay if Manel Kopp gets a dub and they do it. If Bruno Silva gets a dub, I doubt they do it, but we saw Steve Ursak get a title shot this year. Things can happen in the division. So
Yep.
obviously the correct choice for number 1 off the board. I am just going to take the fight that I want the most with the second pick in this little draft of ours. I think that there are other choices you could take above it, but I love Joel Alvarez versus Drakkar Klose so goddamn much. Joel Alvarez is my boy. He has been my boy for some time because he, not like the greatest defensive fighter, but offense for days. Can't wrestle a lick, but he's going to do the Carlos Condit throw up guard shit. He's enormous. Like, his losses are just to like hyper elite dudes. And it's the only reason he's not ranked is he's having to churn through top 20 guys without ever getting to a top 15 dude. And then he fights, Arman Sarukian. It's like, well, okay, like it's freaking Arman. So whatever, man. Like, he loses to maybe the best guy in the division, and now he has to go back to work. Drakkar Klose has been that exact dude for like a decade at this point because lightweight is just impossible. This fight is going to be awesome, so it is absolutely my pick.
For my second pick, by the way, that fight's going to be real fun. For my second pick, going to the bantamweights, going with Adrian Yanez versus Daniel Marcos. Daniel Marcos undefeated. He's looked super fun and good. Adrian Yanez looked like he might be a guy that could fight for a belt not that long ago until he ran into Rob Font. And one of the most memorable watch party moments that we've had through all the watch parties we've done in MMA fighting was during the Ngannou Joshua card. We had Adrian Yanez come on just to kind of give his thoughts on it. And then him talking about, losing those 2 fights. And he was just like, yeah, man, I was feeling myself a little bit too much. And he had to really just take a step back and realize, like, maybe I'm just not as good as I thought I was, but like, I know I can be good. So he needed to kind of go back to the old school ways of just more believing in himself than feeling like he's already there. So I'm super fascinated. I actually talked to Adrian before weigh-in started. He looked real good before he stepped on the scale. And I was like, how you feeling, man? And he said, it's the best he has ever felt. He goes, I know fighters say that all the time, but I'm telling you right now, this is the best I've ever felt heading into a fight. So that gave me a little bit of extra motivation here. So yeah, love that fight. It's going to be a banger.
Love that fight. I have an underdog bet on Adrian Yanez, so I hope he is feeling the best he's ever felt. I will go to the opening main card fight, a light heavyweight contest, Navajo Sterling taking on Tuco Tokos. Sterling is off the latest season of Contender Series. If y'all don't know, I do a write-up after every Contender Series, kind of rating my prospects that got signed. Navajo Sterling was a guy with a round 1 draft grade. Means I think he's one of the better prospects on the show. Not one of the best ones, but because he's a little older, he's 27, but he's out of the city kickboxing team, with all the killers over there. They speak very highly of him. He is super polished despite only having like 5 fights. Reminds me a little bit of like a light heavyweight Rory McDonald. And so, I mean, this is a setup fight. Tuco Tokos is supposed to come in here and get smashed. I think he will. That is also, part why I made Navajo Sterling my representative of the climb this week. So I have a lot invested in this fight, and I'll take it with my second pick. You're muted, Mike.
What a professional I am. But just to have some fun, Jed, because you picked a fun one because we know what this is, and I know how much you love enhancement talent fights in the UFC.
Love
It's
them.
always a great time. I'm going with guys who seem way too big for their weight classes, still make the weight, and just look way too large. So I'm going with Sean Woodson versus Fernando Padilla. Two very large, humongous featherweights who are both like 7 feet tall, but still make weight every single time. Sean Woodson's on a nice, quiet little run. Fernando Padilla is a lot of fun as well. That fight's just got to be real fun. It's two guys who just are not only very long and gigantic, but they're very quietly amassing some pretty darn good resumes, and nobody talks about them, which makes this fight even better. So I'll go with that. I think I have a pretty solid lineup here.
It's an enormous featherweights, like just comically large featherweights. That was on the list. I will round us out though with the opening fight of the evening: Josephine Knudsen taking on Pierre Rodriguez. Knudsen has might actually be decent. Like she might be good as a strawweight prospect, which is exciting. And sign me up for somebody who gets DQ'd for intentional headbutting in a fight, because Pierre Rodriguez, like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, she got DQ'd for intentional headbutting and deserved to be DQ'd for it. Like, she is absolutely living proof of okay, like maybe there are rules in this, but like, why not? Just keep shooting. She walked the line a little too far, but she is embodying our spirit when we say cheat. And so I gotta give her a little love as the opening fight of the evening. If she gets takedowns on Knudsen and starts headbutting her, maybe the game goes differently. We'll see. So, like I said, I think this is a pretty decent card top to bottom. I'm not going to blow your hair back, but it is a perfectly fine, respectable way to spend a Saturday. Certainly, if I were in the Tampa area, I would absolutely attend. Mike, last thing from you before we move to the Q&A. You're used to this by now. We got bonuses. 4 of them are going to be handed out tomorrow night, either 4 performances or a fight of the night and 2 performances. However you want to chop it up. Who is getting that extra $50K for the Christmas stocking?
Navajo Sterling. Cub Swanson Billy Q fight of the night, and I will go. Vitor Bertrino seems like a good pick, but Dustin's tough. I'll go Adrian Yanez.
I think we could get a fight of the night, like that. There's a fight worthy of it, aka Joel Alvarez, Drakkar Close. But I think instead we're going to do the 4 performance things because we're going to get some big performances. I'm going to say Buckley gets one. I'm going to say Yanez gets one. I'm going to say Sterling gets one. And F it, let's have a little bit of fun and say Manel Kopp gets one as well. So that is where we're going. Okay. And now we can head.
Yeah. I'm going to get out of here. Last thing I will say. Thank you, Master of the Universe Classic. One thing I will say, if there is one qualm that I have with this card, it's too late. It starts a little too late. There's too many fights. Yeah, there's too many fights on the main card. But I don't really give a shit. But just if it's not a perfect card. The other thing I will say, Colby said a lot of things at the media day. One of the things he did say was, wait till you see who walks me out to the octagon. And normally when Colby says things, you take it with a grain of salt. If you guys watch the weigh-in stream, I had the great legendary Brendan Fitzgerald on with me. We talked about some of the fights, and when I let Brendan go, he said, by the way, do not miss Colby Covington's walkout. Can't dive into it, but do not miss it. You're not going to forget it. It's going to be one of the unforgettable moments of 2024. And I was like, oh shit. So apparently what Colby said is true. He's going to be doing a very memorable walkout tomorrow night to prepare to fight Joaquin Buckley. What that means, we could take our guesses, and maybe we're right, maybe we're not. But even Brendan Fitzgerald was like, "Yeah, man, don't miss the walkout tomorrow." So something to look forward to.
I don't even know who, because maybe
is Trump walking out with them. I don't know.
That's not like even that's the Trump's walked out a bunch. That's not even exciting. Like that's my thing. It's like, who does Colby even know who I'd be like,
He hasn't walked out
oh,
with a fighter though.
I mean, he got his own walkout. Like it's like, it's not that different. Trump, I guess, would make the most sense, but like I can forget
Maybe all
that.
of them.
That's not an unforgettable one because he comes to like every UFC at this point.
But maybe it's all the Trumps.
They were all at 309. They were all there. The entire the entire presidential cabinet was there at 309. Like
Maybe it's Kurt Angle. That would be sick.
Oh, no. So I want to be very clear. I don't know anything if I'm right and giving away. Hulk Hogan lives in Clearwater. It's gotta be Hogan. Like, I am a real American doing that. Like, it's gotta be Hulk Hogan. Like, I'm so confident in this, knowing nothing, that I would bet money that is Hulk Hogan doing like a full Hogan walkout. So he lives there. They're, ideologically similar.
Is that memorable though? Watching Hulk Hogan,
I mean, if Hulk Hogan
ass hobble to the ring.
But if he rips the shirt behind, or if Colby just rips the shirt and Hogan's behind him with the boa doing the ear thing.
He's gotta walk to Hogan's theme though. He can't walk to Kurt Angle's song. He's gotta walk to Real American.
Well, that's fine. I mean,
all right,
honestly, I am astonished. I'm astonished he doesn't already walk to that.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he already walk to Real American? It feels like Colby should be doing that. So,
but see, now we're all thinking about it. Something to look forward to tomorrow. And what I'm going to look forward to is getting some food and watching the Q&A. So thank you all very much. I'll see you at ceremonial weigh-ins at 4:00. And by the way, something else coming up tonight, not here in Tampa, somewhere else in Florida. Stay tuned, MMAfighting.com. Bye-bye.
You do want to stay tuned for that because it seems pretty cool. I won't spoil it because I don't know if it's 100% yet, and it's Mike's thing, but peep the YouTube channel. It'll be popping later, assuming it follows through. Casey, get on in here. Oh, look at him. Hi. Look. I don't know the last time I've seen you in like a short sleeves t-shirt. Yeah. Like, as opposed to just no sleeves or long sleeves, short sleeves, that it doesn't suit you. It feels weird.
Yeah. I go like all or nothing, but I'm in the middle today. Yeah, but mainly because I just like this shirt, like showing off the guys. When I look in the mirror, that's what I see.
Should I like to show off the guns, the pipe show. I get it. Yeah. Casey, before we pop into the questions, and by the way, get your questions in. Super chats get priority, but we'll answer, as many good ones as there are in the time we have allotted. Casey, before we hop into that, you got any broad thoughts about UFC Tampa this weekend? Are you excited for the Hulk Hogan entrance? Where are you at right now?
Not excited about the Hulk Hogan entrance. Not excited about a lot of the Colby stuff, but in terms of just fighting, I do like the main event a lot. This is I think a very respectable fight night main event, with I think high stakes. I love some Manel Kopp and I love some Cub Swanson. So I think this is a fine fight night card to end the year off. And this is what fight night cards should be. This is above an Apex card and not a pay-per-view fight night card. So no issues with it. I like it. And yeah. And who is Navajo Sterling? I'm like, who is that?
So he came in off Contender Series this year. I know nothing about him. He is a big, tall, light heavyweight who trains out of City Kickboxing. That Adesanya and that whole crew are very high on his potential. I think he is quite possibly the rarest thing in this sport, a legitimate light heavyweight prospect.
Legitimate. Okay.
Like a legitimate, I don't know if he's going to win the belt but
you don't need to win the belt, but top 10.
This is a dude who is probably going to be top 10 for a while if he continues to develop. He's a little older at 27, but he is already very polished. He can immediately, he's getting a fair softball in Tuco Tokos. He could immediately come in and have success against, top 30 light heavyweights or whatever. There's a lot of upside here. And the City Kickboxing team is very high on him. I mean, frankly, the same as they were high on Carlos Ulberg. And, Ulberg did have the setback early. I think Sterling is a little better set up than Olberg to have immediate success, though maybe he doesn't quite have the ceiling that Olberg has, but he's going to be around for a while, I'm pretty sure.
So we're leaning more Olberg, less Blood Diamond.
Correct.
As far as
much closer to being Olberg than Blood Diamond.
Fair enough. All right, awesome. Okay. Oh yeah, and Andre Yanez is on this card. Yeah,
Adrian Yanez. Yep.
Andre.
Not Andre.
Andre. I got Hulk Hogan.
Different guy. I don't know who that one is. This is a different guy.
I like Andre Yanez.
No, Adrian Yanez taking on Daniel Marcos, who's still undefeated. Like, that fight's really good.
The two, Woodson Padilla has to be the combined tallest featherweight fight in UFC history.
I think almost certainly.
Two guys plus 6 foot. Yeah.
What was the like 7-footer Corey, whatever the hell his name was?
Corey Booker? Or Brooker? The guy broke his leg.
Yeah, a guy who shattered his leg because he was
Corey Hill.
Corey Hill.
Yeah.
Like Corey Hill being 7 feet maybe actually gets us close enough because like you just put like a 6-foot dude in against him and you're still over 2 6'4" guys. But yeah, like this is extremely big. Like, this is not a featherweight matchup, even though it is.
It'll be comically tall.
Dude, both of these dudes are bigger than Ian Gary. They're both taller than Ian Machado Gary, which is friggin' nuts.
Yeah. Questions now. All right, what we got? Do hit the super chats first. Interesting.
From Jason Durnay, is a tough, I'm going to say fight instead of flight here, is a tough fight better for Buckley's perception? It's a really interesting question I hadn't considered. I think for perception, probably not, right, Casey?
I think I know what Jason means. Because I think we were all I was a bit shocked by how bad Colby looked when he fought Leon. If that same version comes out tomorrow and Buckley say just dominates, wins the fight in 2 rounds, I think the conversation will be how bad Colby is and not how good Buckley could be. That's why I think if Buckley can maybe lose a round, get stuffed in the cage, have to defend some takedowns, get off his back, and then win the fight, I think we will actually look higher on Buckley's performance. If Buckley overall, if he just beats Colby, within a round. I kind of stuttered my way through there, but you know what I'm trying to say?
I get what you're saying. Yeah. I think there's certainly some validity to that. It's going to be a fine line, right? Like if he struggles in that he loses multiple rounds and ekes one out, perception is not going to be very high about Buckley. If he does overcome like a tough first round to then sort of wallop him, then yeah, that's probably better. Part of me does agree though that if he comes out and just kills Colby, then people are just like, Colby's not very good anymore, and so that doesn't mean anything. I'm also not sure that, like, I think that would be a conversation that we have next week and then never again. And so then a month from now, it's okay, Buckley's on a 6-fight winning streak and he has clobbered his last 3 opponents, and it just sort of gets folded into, we could look at it and see that these guys are past their prime, but ultimately you got bonuses, and that's, and highlight reel knockouts. So I can see where you're coming from, and you might, like, Jason may actually be correct. I'm not sure how correct, I guess, is how I'd couch this.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
RS40. This reminds me of Colby versus Woodley, but in this case, the rules are backwards. Also, what's Joel Alvarez's upside in lightweight? He's 7-2 with all of his wins by finish. Let's do the Colby Woodley stuff at the top, Casey. And I mean, does this feel like Colby Woodley to you? I think I know kind of what RS is suggesting here, but does that, because to me, this is a suggestion of, okay, Woodley is past it, right? Colby is past it. And this is a fight that, had it happened exactly at the time that initially was thought, okay, but then we saw Woodley lose to Usman by the time we did the Colby thing, and everyone was really confident how that fight would go. To me, that's how I'm reading this, RS. I'm sorry if that's not how you intended it. I don't quite think it's the same, though. There are maybe some echoes in there.
Yeah, there's some echoes. Yeah, yeah, not the same. But yeah, I think a lot. I think it goes back to the last question. If would the conversation after the fight, if Colby loses, would it be how awesome is Joaquin Buckley or how bad is Colby? I think that's, and I think coming out of the Colby Woodley fight, we were kind of both. We were kind of like, well, Woodley's clearly not the same Woodley, and Colby is, well, Colby's he's for real as far as a contender. That was
Plus there was just like we knew how the Woodley thing was going to go because the styles were so similar. It's like, yeah, Usman took him down repeatedly and Woodley did nothing. Colby's going to do exactly the same thing. I think that this is, I guess you could argue, yeah, Leon's just going to stuff the takedowns and beat him up on the feet. Buckley's going to do the same thing. I think it's probably a little more nuanced than that, but maybe ultimately it's not. I mean, in 27 hours or whatever it's going to be at this point in time, we'll get to find out. But I can see where you're coming from, I guess, in that phrase, even if maybe I don't all the way agree. As far as Joel Alvarez, Casey, let me pull up old Joel Alvey because I love him so much. 31 years old, big tall fella, 6'2". Apparently, maybe has to cheat to make weight based on today. 7 induced in the UFC. His losses, Casey, a decision to Demiris Magulov in his UFC debut. And then he got TKO'd by Arman Sarukian a couple of years ago. Arman Sarukian, extremely good at fist fighting. No shame in that loss. You know, where do you think he can, like, what is Joel Alvarez's ceiling in this sport, in this division?
I think his ceiling is a top 10 lightweight, which is incredibly impressive to be one of the 10 best 155 pounders in the world. I don't see him fighting for a title, but he is a very exciting fighter, and this is a good fight. And yeah, I'm picking him. I think he's overall. Is he younger? Oh, actually, he's a little older than I thought.
He's
Oh, it's Drakkar
31,
Close.
but Drakkar Close is 36.
Oh, okay, Drakkar. Okay, yeah, he is much
Drakkar's
younger.
been around forever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this fight is booked for Joel Alvarez to look good, and I think that's who the UFC wants to win and wants to push, another Spanish fighter, and a guy who's just very exciting and brings violence.
I didn't even think about the Spanish fighter angle. Joel Alvarez is awesome. I told you guys earlier. Like, I love him and I've loved him for a very long time because he is all offense, very little defense, and that's right to my taste. I think as a result of that, there's almost no possibility that he finds a way to a title shot or even realistically the top 5. I think you're spot on. Top 10 is probably the max we can get. Mainly he is just the definition of why I think lightweight is so good, because I think on any given night you could roll Joel Alvarez into a fight with anybody in the top 10 and he can win the fight. Like, maybe not, Islam and Arman, but like anybody else in the top 10. Like, if you match Joel Alvarez up with Dustin Poirier 3 months from now, I'd pick Poirier, but it is not unreasonable to think Joel Alvarez finds a way to win that fight, because he is so gifted offensively, and, one fight, anything can happen. It's, can he do that against the top 10 every time out to make a title run? And that's just, it's a whole different kettle of fish to have to go through. And so he is, to me, exactly why it's like, yeah, he is probably one of the 20 best lightweights in the world right now. I'd actually say almost certainly one of the 20 best lightweights in the world right now. And he might not get a number just because it's hard.
55. It's 55.
Yeah. 55 is hard. And if his next opportunity is, okay, now you get another ranked guy and you have to fight Rafael Fiziev. It's like, okay, like, you can fight Fiziev close and you might lose, and then you have to go back to fighting Drakkar Closes until you get another crack at ranking. It's very, very tough. So I think top 10 is probably the ceiling, Casey. I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Who was the gentleman that fought at UFC Noche with one of the fight of the years? How do you say his name? Is the Argentinian fighter?
Oh, give me a second.
Is Argentinian?
I'm just super horrible at these, so I'm just having to pull up.
Starts with R.
Esteban Ribovic.
Ribovic, yeah. man, Alvarez Rivovic, if that
He's
can
sick
be,
as hell. Rivovich is
yeah,
fun as shit too, man. I really like
yeah. Sorry, I
Zoe
was just thinking.
Huber. Zoe
So,
Huber,
but
the dude he beat,
either
also a
guy,
big,
either
tall
guy.
lightweight. Like that shit's
Yeah,
cool as hell.
yeah.
Uh,
Honestly, I got to admit, I got for a while. I got Alvarez and Zohuber
mhm.
confused a bit. Just 6 foot
Yeah,
plus
yeah,
violent,
they're
violent,
giant, violent dudes.
violent Latin strikers. Yeah.
Dude, the
Um.
fight I want, I don't want it because in part I really want Jalen Turner to move up to welterweight because I think he'll have a much better career at welterweight. In the like in the vein of Michael Chiesa, Gilbert Burns, a bunch of lightweights who moved up and had success. I think Jalen Turner should absolutely do that. If he doesn't, Jalen Turner, Joel Alvarez, sign me the frick up. Like that is just it's the best fight.
Yeah. Don't. I'm tired of all this lightweight praise I'm giving. I'm tired of it.
The division's so good. Honestly, the division looks worse if you look at the rankings because there are still like some holdovers who are just like still around in it. Whereas like the next
The
10
next
dudes
crop, yeah.
down are
The next,
like,
yeah,
God, these
yeah,
guys are awesome. If these old farts would just leave.
yeah. It is when you say it that way, it is pretty freaking amazing how guys like Gaethje, Poirier, who else? I think
Chandler? I mean,
Chandler
Chandler
have
doing it in a
well,
different way, but like, yeah, it's
yeah,
nuts
but
that they're
still,
still here.
yeah, still top 5, top 10 after like basically a decade. I don't know how
Yeah.
long they've been doing that,
Yeah.
but it's it's
And
wild.
they fight back like because that's the thing. This is not them squatting like Poirier and Chandler is squatting, but it's a whole separate thing. Poirier and Chandler, both were like, okay, I'll fight the up and comer, and then they beat him.
And they
Oh,
beat
I'll
him, and
beat Rafael
we're
Fiziev. I'll beat Benoit Saint-Denis. Okay, I'll defend position. Is nuts. Lightweight kicks ass.
It does. It does. Okay. All right. I admit
Okay,
it. Okay.
I'll admit
All
it's a
right.
very good division.
It's okay. All right. Thank you, RS40. What else we
Thank
got
you,
here?
RS40.
Uh, do, do, do. Hold on. I think we kind of mentioned this, but I'll go and throw it up here again.
Does the winner of Cop Bruno Silva get a title shot next? That's from Brandon QFG. Yeah, we touched about it. I'm going to say doubtful, but not impossible. I think based on everything, we are going to get Davison Figueiredo getting the next crack at Pantoja. Figgy already said he was open to it. There's not another fight that really makes a ton of sense. Like meritocratically, Brandon Royval probably deserves it. I just, I don't care about seeing it. If they book it, it's fine. We just saw it. Like we just saw it happen. So it feels silly to run that back. Maybe you do the Brandon's trilogy bout and the winner of that gets one, but there is a world where Cop is just the guy who, okay, Steve Erceg, there's not a clear cut option. This is a fight that's new and different. We want a fresh matchup. But I think what we are going to end up getting is Davison Figueiredo dropping back down and the rematch because I don't know what Figgy's doing. Like Figgy, he's out of the bantamweight title shot right now. He respectable performance against Petr Yan, but bantamweight is already clogged up. So I think it makes sense for him to drop back down and try and get the belt back. So I don't think so, but it's possible.
Pantoja Figgy is a fun fight. I just hate it still because I hate guys getting title fights off a loss.
Yep.
And also then it kind of means we kind of go back to that whole going to 35 kind of wasn't a risk because he came straight back to a title shot. Like it's, like I don't know. I just don't like
it. Is legitimately not a risk. It is a it's different, but yes, like I get it. There are certainly problems with it, and in other circumstances, I would say don't do it. But there's just not a clear cut contender for him because the UFC cut Makayev, or not cut. They didn't re-sign him or whatever.
I think personally, if Cop wins impressively, Bruno Silva, he's not on the table for a title shot. I'm going to say that. But Cop, if he wins impressively, I do think he can and should get a title shot because he can sell a fight, and the UFC brought him over for that reason. So let's finally do it, and then maybe you have Pantoja, the rising killer, start trying to sell that, angle or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I would like to see it. And over if Cop just wins, he doesn't even win impressively, just wins. I think, but
I would like to see it. And I just don't think it'll happen, but I'd like to be wrong because I would like to see them fight, even if it would be kind of weird given everything else that's going on.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Brandon.
Brandon.
Interesting. Another one from Jason. What do you think about this?
Jason Durnay, happy Friday to all. With Masvidal teasing a comeback, does Buckley enter the sweepstakes with the win? I think Joaquin Buckley should not have any interest in fighting Jorge Masvidal with a comeback.
Neither should
Honestly, the
Masvidal.
comeback, well, Masvidal super should. Masvidal will
Yeah.
get run up. Super duper should not want to do it. I'm unclear if this will happen because Dana White just seemed like wholly disinterested in bringing Jorge back, which is a little weird, particularly if they are going to Miami in April, as it is rumored. They're not locked in. Feels like it would make sense to bring him back. And he wants to do it and you do there. I think you've got a couple of options, and I would say that Buckley is not one that is one or should want it either. Like if he beats Colby, he should be doing, I would like to get to a title fight, please. Not let me beat up this dude that advances me maybe very slightly in name recognition in his career, but doesn't advance him towards the title in any real way. So I would say that is unlikely. Casey, if Masvidal comes back, I think there's one name that jumps out, is very obvious, but who do you want to see him fight if he does make his return next year?
I haven't thought about it, honestly. I like Masvidal coming back. It's I don't know.
There's an obvious answer. It's very simple. They're going to London in March. You do Leon Edwards in London. And if they go to Miami, then maybe you don't do that because then you want Masvidal in Miami. But
Leon Masvidal,
it's a rebound fight for Leon.
Makes perfect sense. It's a great fight for Leon, a big name, and
settle the beef.
And if Masvidal loses, he loses to a guy he was supposed to lose to in a sense, and now they're tied 1-1.
Yeah, he can absolutely say the tied 1-1 line. It's perfect.
Yeah, I'm already selling the trilogy.
That can headline the hell out of the O2 with no issues whatsoever. You do that. If not, if they are going to Miami, if Leon doesn't take the fight, I think he would. But if he doesn't, the other answer, and this is sort of a cop-out, but I just don't really care much about watching Jorge Masvidal fight like current welterweights. Like I would watch him fight a Wonder Boy or whatever thing like that. But, Donald Cerrone wants to come back. Screw it. Put the two of their old returning asses into a fight at Miami. Be fine.
Yeah. A little rematch. Yeah. I think
they're both light. They're both light welterweights, like it's fine. Do that.
Yeah. 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 Masvidal's got options. I wonder why Dana, do you think Dana was just trying to no sell it for the negotiation portion of the, because if Dana went, oh, this is great, then then obviously the price goes up.
I think my guess is that he just genuinely was like, that's weird. Like, why? He left. He didn't even look good when I think Dana, this is one of the times was like, yeah, no, he retired at the right time. He didn't look good. We were going to be in that spot where he's a big name, but he's not good at fighting anymore. And so it was fine for him to leave because the UFC didn't care if he won box. They were like, yeah, dude, go box. Don't give a shit. Yeah. Like, I think that they just don't think he brings a ton of value. But it was weird because he should just be like, I mean, look, if he wants to fight again, we'll find him an opponent. He's still under contract with us. We love Jorge. Wasn't really his response, but maybe you just caught off guard.
Yeah, true. I do like the Leon. I hate saying, I do like the Leon Masvidal in London. That actually makes a whole lot of sense.
It is literally a perfect matchup for, we get Leon a win. We get to do it in London. We can promo the hell out of this with all the stuff, all the footage we have. Perfect.
It's so weird.
If Jorge somehow wins, like shit. Okay.
Yeah. If he wins, then all right. It's so weird because that fight feels like it's 3 years too late, but then also perfectly timed.
It's 3 years. Is exactly.
They missed the window.
It's 3 years too late for it being a good fight, It is exactly time for being the fight Leon Edwards needs right now.
Wow, that is kind of yeah. Thank you, Jason. What
Thank you,
else we got
Jason. It's a good
here?
question.
Yeah. Let me see. Let's get one more question up before we get out of here. Oh, yeah, we haven't even talked about this. Thank you, Mr. Boza, for bringing this up.
Joseph Boza, could Miranda Maverick get back in the top 15 at women's flyweight? She won 5 of her last 6, lost a decision to Yasmin Yasidavicic. Let me look at the old women's flyweight rankings right now. Yasmin is ranked, so, only losing to a ranked fighter is not bad. My guess is no. Not off this win. I do think Miranda Maverick is going to get back there because Miranda Maverick is still fairly young. She's like 26 or something like that.
Yeah,
She's been around she's been around for a bit. Has been competing in the UFC for, it feels like 5 years, 6 years. Like, feels like she's been in the UFC for a long time. She came in young. And yeah, she's had some setbacks, but there's no real shame in losing to like Erin Blanchfield early in your career. And she does seem to be getting better as like she's just doing on that steady line of improvement thing. So she's absolutely going to make her way back to a ranking. I don't know if this fight gets her back there, but I have to look at my rankings to see. But like a run like that, 6 wins to 7, 1, acceptable loss. It's not bad.
Yeah, Brandon Mavericks has been kind of, I don't know. We all have these fighters that we were high on, and they had kind of their setbacks. We still believe in them. We still believe in them. Brandon Mavericks.
Hold on to those priors.
Yeah, she's that fighter for me. I've always thought. I mean, coming out of Invicta, I was like, okay, it was her and Erin Blanchfield. They were the 1 and 2. And then obviously they fought head to head. Erin looked much better in that fight, but I always still believe Miranda could still be a kind of a permanent kind of top 10. She'll kind of hit top 5 every once in a while type of fixture in the women's flyweight. So I'm still a big believer. So I still like Miranda Maverick, and I think she will look good tomorrow night.
I currently have Miranda Maverick ranked. She is my number 15. I just looked it up. So
yeah. Do I have her ranked? Do I have her ranked? I
don't you do not have her ranked.
Oh, wow. I'm a hater.
I'd have to look through and see where we differentiate on somebody. But no, you do not have her ranked.
So it's just tough love from me for Miranda
Maverick. You want her to be the best she can be. Yeah. The issue is Casey O'Neill just won a fight, didn't she? Like earlier this year?
I thought she lost the fight. Kind of forgot about Casey O'Neill.
She lost a bunch of fights, but I think she won one. I'm looking this up now to make sure I'm not. Yeah, she beat Luana Santos in August because she lost back-to-back fights. And in that circumstance, if she hadn't fought Luana Santos, I would say Miranda Maverick probably pops in there at 15. But because she did win, I think that it'll probably just keep Miranda Maverick out of the UFC rankings.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Boza.
Thank you, Joseph. Is that all for the day? It's all for the day, Casey. One more sleep ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen. UFC Tampa is 29 hours away. Actually, what is it? It starts at 7, so 30 hours away, basically, from this moment in time. 30 hours until the first fight of the evening at UFC Tampa. We will have you covered with everything you need. There's a pre-fight Q&A with me, Casey, and perhaps a special guest tomorrow before the events, like 6:30 p.m. Eastern. There is a post-show. There is Mike Heck with Boots on the Ground. There is live blogs and all your coverage needs at MMAfighting.com, so make sure you check that out. We will have the press conference as well here on YouTube. We got all the things you want for UFC Tampa for the final UFC event of 2024. And then it is on to boxing / the holidays. So for one final time this year, guys, enjoy the fights, and we will see y'all tomorrow.
Bye.